Well, okay, now welcome. Welcome, everyone. This is the official meeting. The official meeting. This is it. Okay, there's not any, that thing I did earlier is no, it's out the window. Done. Actually, let me just make sure that it is. Because, let me just tell you why. Let me just add uploads to my thing here. Just see. 4 is taken care of. Done. And let me just do this. Okay, let me add a section. Uploads. Let's add it to the top. Just because I just want to see that. What on earth? Welcome. Thank you. Okay, that's that. Okay, beautiful. Okay. Now, the current big issue now. Mercury is now retrograde. It's the first day of Mercury retrograde. And so far, it's kind of been a breath of fresh air. I think coming in, I was more savvy. I was like, okay, I'm going to follow the rules. I'm going to get comfy. Mercury retrograde, get comfy. Like, wear comfy clothes, sit back, listen to music, read something, work slowly, give yourself time, really focus on something. Just don't get all, don't push, the masculine energy. That, you need to balance that out, especially while Mercury is retrograde. So, now, if you use certain astrological transits and energies well, then yeah. So reflection and kind of sitting with yourself and meditating and being at peace and all those themes, especially in Libra. Because Libra is a sign ruled by Venus, and it's lovely, and it looks at something. It looks at a flower and sees the beauty and the vibrance of that flower. And Mercury retrograde is, a time with the, the feminine. So now today is rainy outside, and it's September, and we're kind of winding into fall. In the wintertime, it's wonderful for the wintertime because it's already reflection, and then, Mercury retrograde, some of them can be blissful, some of them can be really beneficial, like, wow, this, it's kind of like a progressed moon in Scorpio. That's what Colette Baron Reed was talking about. She brought up progressed moon in Scorpio, and I've had, I think, one of those in my lifetime, but I can't remember having it. But with the knowledge that I have now, just imagine the possibilities. With a progressed moon in Scorpio, you're going to go down into your psyche, into the basement, basically, into what is hidden at the very far crevices and corners of your mind. And you could be feeling miserable. Experiences of this are probably going to be super intense and stuff. With progressed moon in Scorpio. Heavy. It's heavy. But she was like, I remember her saying, I want to be in this progressed moon forever. And so, the Mercury retrograde at the beginning of the year was, it was fine. And I have a video that I made way back that it is salvaged on my channel. You can go see that video. Mercury retrograde in Aquarius and Capricorn. Sometimes it can be bliss and it can feel really good, and especially because I was born in the middle of the night, and I am very lunar. I have my moon at 26 degrees of Libra natally, which, like, I read something about, I have a little short on degrees of maturity. So, whatever placement that you have at the latest degrees, that's basically, that's the most mature point, the most advanced point. I mean, throughout kind of past incarnations and the work and the lessons and the experiences that you've gone through. And then at the end of that, and so, yeah, I remember back in 2020, before the whole thing struck, Mercury, I believe it was retrograde in Pisces, and I think that would have been one of the more blissful kind of, Mercury retrogrades. Who knows? But, the retrograde before this one, as I'm looking back on it, which makes so much sense and isn't a crime. Here's the deal. A planet does not have, feelings. Like, it isn't a dictator. Planets are not dictators. They're not evil lords. They're not dominators. They will not lock you in an an ice store in a Walmart. And actually, I ought to say of that. I think I might make write a story called 2026. And this story is basically about it really I was getting some very novel kind of visions. If you see the Steve Judd video, the December 21st, 2021 winter solstice video, not the astrology video, but the other video. And so the image that I got from my mind from that video, when he was describing this change, this transition that we're in, that we've come to the end of history, that we're moving into a new world of more empathy, compassion, where people are free to be themselves, and there's infinite possibilities, and they have the God granted right to do what they want to do. And what I was seeing was, I was picturing Walmart, and I was seeing these the doors in Walmart with ice inside of those doors, and I was picturing this highly empathic place with people. And if you were an energy vamp, or your energy was toxic, you would be kicked out, or maybe put in the freezer to cool down and walk out, transformed, humbled, and wiser. So that's kind of the thought process that I had. But anyway, looking back, some of them are really, it's like, you need to know this isn't the super masculine. And, I also think at that time of year, May, springtime, when everything's bursting and there's new opportunities, Jupiter just moved into Aries the same day I had my graduation. I was getting a new computer. I was stressed out because of the Mercury retrograde. I was freaked out that it would mess up the transportation of the computer that I had that was getting delivered. I was stressed out. It was coming to the wire. And I, for that day, I wanted things to be perfect. Things had to be perfect. My expectations were almost through the roof. It was a big time. It was a very stressful time. And lo and behold, Mercury went retrograde. I would probably have cooked a spell. Mercury direct macaroni and cheese. And if the spell like that existed from the magical cookbook, I would make it. Boom, it's direct. I can relax. And then, okay, well, you know what? The astrologers are in for a shock, but guess what? Starting on May 23rd, it's going to instead go retrograde into, throughout, and, Mercury retrograde in Gemini and not Taurus. So it would just be Gemini. Because, if you think about just the length of time and kind of the structure of the retrograde season. So it would go retrograde May 23rd, the day after my graduation. Also, that was the worst retrograde of my whole entire life. And the retrograde that really was like, it really was a rude awakening. It was a wake-up call to how serious and why Mercury retrograde gets a bad rap as it does. It was really a rocky, bumpy ride. It really was. The two biggest days of the retrograde for me that had the most impact were May 11th and May 22nd. 1122. 1122. Those were the days. Oh, even though I got rid of the videos, and I really, really regret doing that. I really do. I ended up just deleting a whole bunch of videos from my channel that weren't listed. Ugh, why did I do this? Why, oh, why did I do this? Well, anyway. I only have it in my memory, and that's, that's as much as I have. So, this video that I made, it was the mentioned meeting where I remember saying, you can do the things that you want to do during this time. And I was very frustrated at this and, all this kind of thing. And I think the kind of second biggest day was May 16th, especially toward the end of the day on May 16th. And it was very, very stressful. The weather was hot. I had a headache, and it was, ugh. And on May 12th, the day after, oh, that was rough too. It really was. So I couldn't focus. I was in a class, and I couldn't be it was very difficult to be present, and it was rough. And I did have a channel, at the time, and I have records of videos, which is great. The other thing, just May 22nd itself, there's a lot going on, and and I really, really kept getting this perception and thoughts just kept coming back into my mind, and the high-strung, unbalanced energy, the wild energy. And I was feeling very ungrounded during several days of the actual retrograde. So, that was that experience. It really was, I think that self-care was extremely beneficial. And at the time. And trying to think, what else was I going to say about this? With this kind of thing going inside your house, and just waiting and trusting in divine spirit and source, that things would work out. So I really regret getting rid of those videos, but I've gotten rid of them, and it's in the past, and let's hope that I don't have to experience something like that again. Now, here's another part of this live stream that I wanted to get to. What was your experience like at the time? What was it like? Now, things in my life are a lot more stable, and I think that if things in your life are stable and there's not a lot of exciting big things happening, then the Mercury retrograde is going to be easier for you. Now everything's settled down, and things are fairly consistent, and things are neutral, and there's a system, and there's a routine, and there's structure and consistency. Just make use of what you have, surrender to what you have, and look deeper into it, and And take some time and replenish during the retrograde, and that's really what it is about. And I can tell you because I made a video about it today. Now, so if what was going on in my life from the first retrograde of this year and this retrograde is pretty stable. There's no big thing coming up. There's no tech product on the way. There's nothing. If you have something really, really big that needs to be delivered, or family coming, or a big trip that you're planning to go on during the retrograde, these huge things happening, let me tell you that self-care and and really connecting to your higher power and really doing some, I guess, relating to the 7 energy centers. Definitely. Because there was a lot of chaos. It was very, very chaotic. It was in Gemini. Gemini is a mutable sign already, and you have, Jupiter in Aries amplifying the fire. Let's start this thing. Oh, you can't do that during Mercury retrograde. So I think it was kind of the I don't know, the devil's work. That it was kind of like trying to think of pod in a game, whatever metaphor it was, but it really was a dichotomy. And when there is a mixed message from astrologers and the cosmos, it can create some stress and some frustration and some anger and some unbalance in your mind, in your system. And Aries doesn't want to wait, wants to go, wants to start, wants to use its fire energy. Jupiter blows things up, and it was direct in Aries. It just moved into Aries, and then you have Mercury retrograde at the same time. Like, wait a little bit into the Jupiter and Aries cycle before Mercury goes retrograde. That's what I will say. I mean, if Jupiter was retrograde in Aries at the time, probably would make it a little bit easier. Because it's kind of the cycle beginning again, the 12-year cycle, getting started that day. And there's several other things. In Gemini is very chaotic, and your thoughts, how you're thinking. So kind of diving deep into your own thoughts and really, and there was a video, Owning Authenticity, and she really prophesized the Mercury retrograde very, very well. And I wrote a comment saying, I wish I heard this before the Mercury retrograde, because it was spot on. Really, it was spot on. It so resonated with me. It really did. when I was in 7th grade, it was very rough, but possibly that, that toughness and the hard work and the difficulty and the intensity of that is exactly what, really you can transform and empower yourself and grow from those experiences. So, really, there's several Mercury retrogrades where it's more subtle and more calm and more peaceful, more neutral. And then there is the ultimate steroid, this is really that particular Mercury retrograde was an emissary of the bad rap of Mercury retrograde that is available. I've heard and I have preached and talked about the stuff in pop culture, the rules, the things that people know about it before, but that didn't really hit me like it hit me at that time. It really didn't. It really did not. And it was spring, fresh time, progress forward. And it was like living in a, nightmare type, it wasn't a nightmare, but, and it's less so in the fall and winter, especially on rainy days like this where you can settle down and, all of that. And so, if you think about people on the planet who are moving about their day just overwhelmed with all the information given by Mercury and Gemini, the mind, thoughts, all of this. All the stuff about, that Stormy Grace had a video about it, talking about all of that, was probably, the voltage was turned up, and it was far more accurate, I will say. Far more accurate. Far more. What was the other thing I was going to say? Well, being present, being attuned to what is going on in the here and now, difficult when you're so absorbed into yourself. Get out of your head. Get out of your own thoughts and possibly the feelings of depression and of funk and feeling pale. There were probably a lot of people in a funk at that time, a mental and emotional funk. And, I remember the speaker at the graduation was announcing to everybody, congratulations to the graduating class of 2021. It was actually 2022, but he got it wrong. So, this is only the first day of the retrograde, but we're moving into fall, kind of coming home again. Things are, as I said, winding down. We can settle down, get into the harvest season, wear warmer clothes, etc., etc. So it should be, hopefully, a much calmer experience. And this is really, kind of a second chance, a redemption to reframe the Mercury retrograde beliefs and experiences that I had during and after the retrograde. I find that sometimes when you're so mindful, when you're so prepared, so aware of stuff, well, you're surprised. a lot of the time, like, wow, this isn't actually that chaotic. And then when you just don't think too much of it, then you get into it and you're like, wow, okay, this is real now. So, that's that. As opposed to community tabs, guess what? I did allow you to post community posts, but this is my rule. It had better be on Facebook as well. If it is not on Facebook, if you post something in the community tab and it is not also on Facebook, well, you need to put it on Facebook. So both places, I don't care if you put it in the tab first, write it out, or copy and paste it over to Facebook, or vice versa. I don't care what you do, how you do it, but it must be both and. You can put posts in Facebook and not in the community tab, but you cannot put posts in the community tab that are not in Facebook. So that's the rule. It has to be fair. Because if it's fair, that way where you have the posts in the same place, guess what? You can focus on the value of the message and the content that's being put out, as opposed to this is a community post and something that I wish that I had. So that's my rule. That is absolutely my rule. And I give you my word when I get this thing on my channel. Whenever I do, I will take advantage of it, because why not? I have the right to. Deborah Silverman does that, where she puts the stuff on her page and on her channel, equally. So yeah, and she has it, so why not use it? So that's my rule. Done. Benito. And Tense and Pine.